Hello? Great. Okay. Hi, my name is Mark Kruchnet. I'd like to call to order the March 19th meeting of the Ross ADR. I'll let the other members of the ADR introduce themselves.
Hello, Mark Fritz here.
I'm Joey Buckingham.
Hi, Laura Dewar.
And before we start anything else with the meeting, we have open time for public comments. If anyone in the audience here or at home wishes to speak for something about something not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes, now is your time to do so. You can raise your hand online virtually. Okay, great. The first order of business is the approval of minutes from January 16th. I've read them and they seem fine to me. Does anyone else want to second their approval?
It looked okay to me. Second.
Great, so those are approved. Now we will move on to the first project, which is 12 Garden Road. And just to let anybody in the audience at home or on Zoom know, the way that this works is the town presents a project, then the owners and or their design team explains the project to the ADR. At that time, we can ask questions of them. After that is done, we open it up to the public. If any neighbors want to make a comment, some people have already sent in letters that we've read, but any neighbor that or non-neighbor that wants to make a comment can at that point for up to 3 minutes. And then we bring it back to the ADR for our recommendations to the town council. So 12 Garden Road. Alex, are you presenting that? Oh, Roberta's. Okay.
Roberta.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, ADR. So this is a group consideration and recommendation to the town council on the consistency of the design review criteria and standards in the Ross Municipal Code. The applicant is requesting a recommendation to town council for the design review, an accessory dwelling unit exception, and a nonconformity permit. The project includes remodeling, renovating the existing single-family home, including a 703 square foot second-story addition, and then also an attached 1,200 square foot rent-restricted ADU, which would be integrated within the structure. Part of it's in the basement and then also on the first floor, and new landscaping. A nonconformity permit is required to extend the existing north side setback of 12 feet into the front and the rear of the structure. Let's see, there's also going to be new windows, relocating the entry door. The materials would be a stone skirt at the base of the existing structure and then replacing the siding. The exception to the non-conforming floor area and building coverage of an ADU to exceed the 800 square foot state law, it can go up to 1,200 if the ADU is rent restricted, and so that's what the applicant is proposing for the ADU. And tonight we have the project architect and the property owners here to present and answer any questions. But if you have any questions for staff, I'd be happy to respond to those as well.
Thank you. Do you want to make your presentation?
I'll be very brief.
You want the perspectives up?
Like,
Okay.
if you don't mind, you're probably like, oh, okay, yes, I'll literally go with that. I had my knees replaced. Yeah. I don't have a lot to say, but I wanted to show you.
I'm sorry, Jared, just let him turn on the mic just because people on Zoom, and also these are get recorded, so we need the mic on.
Okay, you got me? Okay. Don't have a lot to say, but I want to show what the house looks like with some perspectives. We think it's a real improvement on the look of the house. The floor plan right as it is now just doesn't work very well. We're trying to make a real family home floor plan with a handsome facade. Maybe we could show the perspectives all the way around. That's the back. There's a aerial view. We have our landscape architect online, I think, to answer any questions you might have, Brad Eichste. And it's slate roof, stucco walls, stone base, and dark bronze windows. I think it's a big improvement, and the floor plan works, and it's really a family home. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions for Jared?
Yeah, I've just, maybe a couple, but let's start out. Stone base, am I missing that on the renderings, or am I, because as you look in the rear rendering, it's the one with the least amount of vegetation base. Is there actually a stone base, or no?
Oh, that's right, we took it out.
It looks like
We
it's-
had a stone
I-
base.
I've-
We don't, no, I'm sorry, we don't have it. We
No
had,
stone base.
we had it, and
Okay.
it's out.
Okay. Other materials, windows, what are we looking at
They're
for the
dark
window?
bronze anodized wood windows.
And, okay,
They're clad.
yeah.
I have a couple questions. No, could you explain to me, so the ADU is on 2 floors,
Right.
but in order to get to the kitchen part of the ADU, you have to go outside, and I'm,
Or there's an internal stair.
okay. I'm a little unsure of what was going on there, and then, okay, and then could you explain the setback situation? You're adhering to an existing setback.
Right, we're building most of the house on the existing footprint.
Okay,
And the part on the north side is existing, and it's into the side yard setback.
okay,
And the garage, which is existing, is in the setback, both rear and side, but we're not touching it.
okay. I just had not seen an ADU like that was split up. That was,
We talked with Roberta, and with the caveat that it's deed restricted to be affordable. It meets all the guidelines.
okay, great, thank you.
And the north side is, if you're looking at the house from the
right.
street, on the right-hand side.
Right.
Okay, just,
One last question for me on that rendering, is that the finished material color palette that we're looking at?
It's a linen white, so it's hard to get a real good white on a
Yeah.
CAD drawing.
Okay, but it's a linen white, okay. And this slate roof is a natural slate color, or is it's typical slate, kind of a gray slate?
Yeah, a
Okay.
typical gray slate. It's, there's multicolor slates, that's not what we're proposing.
Okay, you want to group for a gray? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Does anyone in the audience, either here or online, have any questions about this project or comments?
See this stone.
Okay, great. So I'll bring it back to the ADR for comments. Do you want to go first, Laura?
I think it looks like a great improvement. I've seen the inside of the house, and I completely understand the desire to upgrade your family home. I think it fits with the context of the neighborhood, and when the story poles went up, it was nice to see that it didn't feel like it got too huge. A lot of it stayed similar height. The one thing, with the second story windows facing north and south, kind of right into the neighbors' homes, you worry a little bit about privacy concerns, but it sounds like you guys have the blessings from both of those current homeowners. And I think two other things, I guess the material, I think, looks pretty white, and I think the town guidelines try to encourage more natural looking materials and colors. So if there's any way to make it a little more subdued, less bright white, that would probably be helpful. And then the one thing I noticed, the trash enclosure in the front yard, there's no details on that. I don't know if that's typically something that is reviewed when it's in the front yard.
I'm sorry, the trash, was there a trash enclosure on the plan? I didn't see that.
Could we have a presentation by the landscape?
He should be with us also.
Okay.
And I'll just keep talking with my one last comment. That rear patio space that's really close to the property line in the setbacks. When I was there just before this meeting, there is a house, or I don't, is that somebody lives in that house or what? Okay, because it's like their house is like 18 inches from the fence or something. So that patio space is just kind of like right, super close to their house. I'd be a little. And it's just a dining table there or something? Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, okay, thanks.
Can we ask, is that part of the setback variance requirements? Because typically that's in a setback, and that the one in the southwest corner, there's a patio that doesn't exist where you can see on the bottom left-hand corner of this plan. Is that part of the variance request? Southwest, yes. The left bottom corner of this plan would be in the rear yard setback and probably in the side yard setback as well. It's paved, yeah.
Those could be in the setback because it's just paving. It's not raised, or it's not a structure, it's not a deck.
That's something
4
different
feet.
than what I remember. Am I wrong on that? That we've allowed
Maybe
patio,
it's changed. I thought it was 4 feet, like wide. The path can't be more than 4 feet wide.
right, so if you have maybe we've been misled prior, but in previous ADR meetings, when there was a patio in a setback, there was an exception needed to be made for that. I'm looking at my fellow ADR members. Is that incorrect?
I believe you are correct. That's my recollection also.
Yeah, at least that's what the guidance we've gone under is something like that in that back corner where looks like it's about a 10 by 10 patio. Yes, exactly. In the rear yard setback or a side yard setback would need some sort of exception or variance or something along those lines. Generally to keep those away from, as Laura was kind of pointing out, directly next to the neighbors, because it's a gathering space, it's paved, whether it's, soft pavement or like a DG or even a hardscape that usually requires some sort of, we have had seen that in the past as an exception, needing an exception.
So Roberta, maybe, we can make our comments on the project, but maybe you and/or Alex could check that requirement prior to it going to town council.
Yes, I'll be sure to do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and just circling back then to the trash enclosure, does Brad have any more information on how that is going to look?
Where is that on the drawing?
Brad, can you hear us, Brad?
Yeah.
Looks like it's green.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
There's going to be a side yard fence that closes the rear yard and the front yard. And the trash enclosure was going to follow those details. And I believe it's just a 6-foot fence with vertical boards. It may be on one of the architecture elevations. That's what we had talked about.
Hey, Brad, can you clarify a comment that I may just have misunderstood? Is there a proposal for a fence across the front of the yard, or is it just at the north and south side yards?
It's just at the north and south side yards, and then it turns into there's a 6-foot fence around the rear of the property. And then the driveway side, there's an existing fence in there that we are going to maintain. And then add that auto gate into that space. There's also an existing fence along, like behind the trash enclosure. I have to grab my photos to remember what height that was, but I remember it being like 4 or 5 feet tall. And that was gonna stay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so to me, Mark, it looks like it's just, 15 feet to the south of the house and the, 8 feet or so to the north.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was proposing something at the streetscape.
Yeah, right. Mhm. Right.
Okay,
No,
those,
there's no fence at the streetscape. There's not a fence in the front.
yeah, it's, I think, aligned with the house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's, I think, all my feedback, but I think generally it's a great project, so.
Does anyone have any other questions? Oh, actually, we'd already opened it up. Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot we were up there. Yeah, okay, sorry, we went back and forth so much, I forgot we were giving our recommendations now. I think the project looks great, and from all four sides, it's a huge improvement on the existing structure. And considering the two houses next door and the one across the street and the one kitty corner from it are all two-story or more houses, it seems like it fits very well in that neighborhood. You almost wonder why it wasn't a two-story house already. That's it.
I agree. I think it's a huge improvement. It's a really nice looking design. I also share Laura's concern about the white being too white. It could be toned down. I think that would be more successful and just less glaring. And I also share the concerns about the two ends, the north and south end windows just being too large for neighbors. A little bit of a lantern effect. But otherwise, I'm fine with it. It looks like a great project. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll concur with my colleagues. I think the massing is really nice. I think it certainly improves what you guys have there today. I think what I was struggling a little bit with was some of the details. I think I was looking for a little more character maybe in some of the facades, specifically the front facade. I felt like it was a little plain. Now that's just my design opinion. When I sort of opened up the drawings and said, okay, that's certainly a massing improvement. I think it looks good in the north and south, and especially the rear. I was just looking for a little more detail to kind of pull out some more character in the building, maybe. That's just really what I was kind of hoping for. And I understand, we've seen a number of your projects. I live next door to one of your projects. But usually I've seen it, the stone base might have been a help to do that, to bring in some texture and a little more character to the structure. So I was kind of hoping that I'd see a little of that. The slate roof, I wasn't aware with that material, so I think that's a really good choice. And I think for the sort of streetscape, that's going to be a really nice element. So I'm very happy to see that gets a lot of texture. Yeah, and I would agree with the comment on the color. I think that, as toned down as it can be, a linen, there are a number of shades of linen. I would go towards the darker shade of linen if that's something. I think you should make sure you have a materials board with you at council so that you can share what that might look like and they can respond to that. And the last comment I have is probably not necessarily for the homeowners or even for the designers, but it's probably more for staff. And I would say that what struck me with this deed restricted ADU or the rent restricted ADU in this particular application is it does render what is not the ADU a somewhat unusable home. So that what I see happening here is, and every homeowner has the right to do this, is take advantage of the code and take advantage of the ordinances that we have. But when you rent that out, you end up with a home that's 2-bedroom and 1 bath, and that bath is a master bath on the top floor. So it's unlikely, in my opinion, that this home will ever have that ADU rented out because it doesn't function as a modern home to do that. So again, this is really not the owner or the architect, because I think you're doing exactly what is allowed, and that's great. Good on you guys. I think it's more to our administration and our response back to the state to say, that's not in keeping with the intent of the ordinances and the laws, right? We're trying to get more housing, and in these types of applications, it will never be rented out. And it certainly won't be rented out to a low-income person because the remaining home doesn't function as one would expect. So I'm disappointed in that. Again, not the homeowner or architect's problem, but we're seeing this more and more where pool houses are obviously pool houses, but they're ADUs, and integrated ADUs into homes that are clearly never going to be rented. And this one is probably the most egregious of them because of what I see as the bathroom situation. It doesn't really work. And my colleagues could tell me to go shut up, but we're charged with keeping this, the sort of town characters, style, massing, intact to some degree. The good thing about this one, the second story works perfectly, right? So the added mass in this particular home doesn't really impact the neighbors, and that's why I'm, thumbs up. But in the reality, I am pained to see where we're headed as a town in relationship to the ADU application in this town. So I want to at least say that because it seemed to jump out at me in this one.
Yeah, I would agree with your assessment there. I guess the one positive, and I agree, the ADU, it will never be rented out, which is true of, a significant amount of them. I guess you could say the one positive one is if the ADU wasn't built in this fashion, which we all really like the design on massing on, it might be a 1,200 square foot ADU in the very front of the lot or somewhere where it actually did impact people negatively and made the structure less attractive. But I agree with you as far as actually additional housing is concerned, and it's an issue not for the homeowner or architect, whatever, because I think it's perfect. If I were you, I'd do the exact same thing. I think you've done a great job with it, but for the town to be aware of.
Yeah, and I actually second that point, right? It is better than a freestanding ADU that we've seen around town pop up. And it may not be complementary to the either design or the massing on the lot.
Yeah, well, this way it's both.
Exactly, yeah. But I want to at least say that because I think it's something that as a committee, we struggle with, and I'm not sure if there's even anything we can do about it.
I agree. And I think in a certain way, we kind of have our hands tied behind our backs because it's a state requirement. And you all have done a great job designing using that requirement. But I would like to return really quickly to Mark's comments about the design being kind of devoid of detail. And I think that can be very successful, but it's very much dependent on the quality of materials that are used. So if you have a very plain, austere look like this, it can be really elegant if you use, smooth troweled stucco. If you stick to this on the plans, the copper rain gutters, the slate roof tiles. If you start to downgrade any of these materials, it's going to look cheap and bad. So I like your scheme here and I like the simplicity, but it really depends on the high quality of materials. So there.
Great, well, thank you.
Can I make a quick comment? Yes. Sure. Can I stand over here? Okay, so I just wanted, I'm a real estate professional. So I just wanted to make a comment back to you, Mark, and also to the town. I think one of the things that, just anecdotally, from my professional opinion, that we're working around is the fact that unlike towns like Atherton and Menlo Park, and even Larkspur, where below grade living space is not included in your FAR, in Ross, we're really stringent on below grade and garages. And perhaps that would be a remedy that would, prevent people from, working around the ADU kind of loophole as you would. And I mean this in no relation to my personal project, but just as a real estate professional, because not only does it restrict homeowners, it then restricts their ability to improve their property, which, as we all know, considering how robust the ADR is, and in terms, your comments are so well noted and well observed, even a comment about using quality materials. Clearly we have a robust committee monitoring the look and the feel of these homes. We're not going to become McMansion-y tract homes. So considering how robust this committee is, I think it would be wise then to consider allowing lower level and garages not be included in FARs, like some of our more affluent neighbors in the South Bay. So for what it's worth, yeah.
Okay, now we will move on to the next project, which is 200 Lagunitas Road. Oh yeah, you're sweet. Yeah. So the town will present the project first? No one cares. No offense. Or I have to say, no one noticed. That's what I should have said. Yeah. We all care. Right.
Give me 1 second.
Well, he might still be on. For all we know, he has the next 2 projects. He's in almost every project. Yeah, he's the most popular landscaper in town by far. And we use him. Yeah, no, I love Brad. He's great.
Good evening, ADR members. Tonight, the applicant at 200 Lagunitas Road is requesting recommendation to the town council for a design review and a demolition permit. The project is proposing to replace the existing siding with cedar shingles and add a stone base. The project includes an interior and an exterior remodel to include new windows, 2 horizontal additions by pushing the massing out, adding 180 square feet, and 2 roof dormers to the front of the home. The project will also add 131 square feet to the garage for access to the JADU. A new 115 square foot covered entry is also proposed. The staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project and provide a formal recommendation to the town council. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Would the owners and/or their design team like to present?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarah Niehaus. My husband Scott and I are obviously the owners of the property at 200 Lagunitas. Just quick by way of introduction, because I know we want to get to the meat of it, but we've lived here in Ross for 4 years. We've got 3 little boys who are all preschool aged. We bought the property at 200 Lagunitas about a year ago and moved in and have been living there since. When we bought the property, which we feel very fortunate to have been able to do so, we knew it was in need of a significant renovation to update it and make sure that it could be functional for a young family and something that we could really grow into over time. And so we've been working with our team to that end. Part of our intent in that, we love the property itself, we love the gardens, we really want to work within the existing structure to the extent that we can, and that's what you see proposed in the plan, and also be respectful to the property and the environment and gardens itself as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to Brooks McDonald, who's our architect, and can talk through a lot more of the detail than I can.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks, Roberta and Alex, for all of your help on this project. I think you've all seen this project before, so there's nothing really new. I'll quickly go over a couple of minor changes that we did. If you could just bring up that front rendering, actually. Yeah. There was a comment from Steven, which we all agreed with, about at the front entry, there was sort of an awkward overhang. And in the original rendering, we had sort of a light fixture hanging down. Well, we've pushed that roof back so that there's a consistent overhang for the roof all the way around going in through that alcove. And then there's still the covered entry below. Yeah, I think there we go, yeah. I'll add that, in the time and waiting for us to come up to this, this meeting, we've actually continued to massage this a little bit, and the renderings are not updated in that regard. I think because we have this time with your advice in front of us, I might as well mention these things to you. And I'm sorry that they're not depicted here. But we wanted to really accentuate the balcony area that's on the left, that's in front of the primary bedroom. And so, and tie it in a little bit more in this way that the bays are. So, what we're proposing to do is there's pilasters here that protrude from the wall. They're about 10 inches wide of painted wood that flank either side of the doors here. We would actually carry those down, widen them out slightly, and then have the brackets, which are decorative. There's going to have to be more structural work going back here, but the brackets would then be mounted over the center of the pilasters, and we just think that that sort of ties these two floors together a little bit better. We've also decreased the number of columns here from 4 to 2, and we've also changed the front door from being a door with 2 side lights to a single door with divided lights to match the rest of the windows. And there would be decorative sconces on either side of that door, which I think sort of simplifies things a little bit, still lets enough light in there. But we definitely felt that these double columns were kind of overdoing it in some ways. So, I mean, those are really the biggest changes that you can see from the front of the house. The last, I guess, as a recap, the additions really just exist here and on the back side of the garage. So this wall would remain. It's the other addition for the ingress and egress, the JDU, is on the other side of this. And the whole purpose of this is to improve the facade and obviously sort of like give it some character and something that's rooted in a little bit more of a historical context. And I guess just before I take questions, there may be questions about landscaping. There was a comment about a patio and a setback. We are actually doing the landscaping as a deferred submittal, and so the landscape architect will be presenting to you in a separate hearing. Part of that is because the landscape design is dependent on a lot line adjustment with the adjacent neighbors, which we've fully fleshed out, and with the survey and the civil engineer have sorted all of that out with the neighbors' blessing all the way through. So I just wanted to address that early on in case there were any questions about why we're not actually including a landscape plan here. We do have, as part of our package here, we account for the additional impervious area in the site plan, but we're leaving the bigger site development in terms of civil and landscape to the other half of the team. And landscape architect is also here available on Zoom if you have any questions regarding that.
I apologize because I should have looked at the minutes from the conceptual review of your project, but besides Stephen's comment about the entryway, was there other feedback?
The feedback was really about, there was a patio similar to the comment from the previous project that was proposed in a side setback.
Okay.
And I mean, it was a while ago. I don't really remember all of the comments. I just paid attention to the ones that I needed to kind of provide, so.
Okay.
Those were the two main things. The other ones were small design things. It sort of made me wonder why we're even seeing this again, but I'd forgotten that it was actually just conceptual before, because your plans were more or less like this.
We had taken them pretty far, yeah.
Great.
Just a couple quick questions,
Yeah.
because we didn't see the revised elevation. If we can go
Okay.
back to that one, Alex? Just because I'm curious.
Yeah.
On the left-hand side, where that balcony is, the windows below, as you're bringing those pilasters down, are you actually changing the number of windows there, or doors? Or are they narrow?
Not changing them, but we're actually going to shift the windows over slightly to give, so
The left and the right window?
yeah, the left and the right will scoot over slightly. These two still stack on top of each other.
Okay.
The doors, I think, maybe shrink by a couple of inches or something, but
And do the pilasters come all the way down to the
And
ground?
the
or do they
pilasters are-
sit on the stone base?
that's, well, they would actually come down so that the stone base can die into the side.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And then another just nice thought about the detail, that front entry way, I think, well, you said you changed the columns. Did you change anything in relationship to the fascia or the depth of that? It was only the roof above you changed. Is that
Correct. Yeah, it's the roof. This is the roof here. So this roof slope will actually change so that it can come down faster
right? Okay.
and
Maybe a
have
little
less of an
steeper.
overhang. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions, Mark.
Anything else? I have no questions.
Okay.
If there's anybody in the audience here or at home that wants to make a comment on this project, now is your time. Okay, I'll bring it back to the ADR for comments. I'll go first on this one. I think it looks fine. I think you took what was already a very good project and made it better with your changes. And I especially like the taking out the extra 2 columns in front of the front door. That looked a little awkward to me. I think it looks like a great project, and we'll see it again, I guess, partially when you do the landscaping for that rear patio area especially.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I'm in support of the project. I think it's a great improvement.
Yeah, totally support it. My only design comment would be on that entry. I was thinking about the thickness of the fascia in relationship to its, just the proportion of that. I don't know how big the columns are. I kind of almost want that fascia to be thicker. But that's a real minor detail. It's a great project, and I think it'll be a huge improvement on the project, the house itself.
Thank you. Great, okay. We'll move on. The last project on tonight's agenda is 2 Bellagio Road. Come back, Joey.
Good evening. The applicant at 2 Bellagio Road is requesting a recommendation to Town Council for design review. The project is proposing to construct a new 30 by 60 foot 30 feet by 60 feet basketball court with an 8-foot high stainless steel rope net and a 5-foot concrete wall with rectangular step lights on the north side of the court. The new basketball court will be made out of either asphalt or concrete and will be adjacent to the ADU and stone patio located on the eastern part of the lot. The project proposes impervious surfaces to increase by 1,800 square feet. The new coverage will be mitigated by adding a new 144 square foot bioretention area for stormwater. It's important to note that any project resulting in over 1,000 square feet of new impervious surface is subject to design review. Staff requests that the ADR group discuss the merits of the project for formal recommendation to the Town Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the owner and/or their design team like to present?
We have Brad here. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you hear us, Brad?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, everybody. This is a project that is currently under construction and was reviewed and approved through the ADR planning process and a building permit process. New owner purchased this home as it was being built and asked if a sport court could fit somewhere. So we started working on a design, and the sport court actually fit quite perfectly into the design. It works right off the gym space that's being built right now. It balances cut and fill, which was really incredible to me that we have no additional off haul on this project. And the walls were able to be kept at a 5-foot maximum height. We looked into pervious asphalt, pervious concrete, and there's just no way to make a basketball or sport court work with that type of material. So we are still in the middle of kind of trying to figure out if concrete or asphalt is a better solution. And asphalt would probably require a pretty big piece of equipment. So we're probably going to do this as concrete that would then be painted. We are taking care of the additional impervious surface with added bioretention basin area. And let's see here. I think that's about it. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this project. And yeah, I think that's about it for me.
Thanks, Brad. I have a question. Can you go back, Alex, to the slide, or I'm not sure, is it you or Brad who's controlling this now?
Me.
Oh, great. Could you go back to the slide where you had an overview of the entire project and the lot and sort of the road was in it?
That's the first sheet
Yeah, the first sheet.
one.
There. Okay. So just to confirm, I'm looking at this right because I was up there today. If you follow that road, in the upper left corner is sort of where that, what I consider the closest neighbor is. So it's the upper left of here, almost where that plus sign is where the house is, where I turned around at the top of the street.
I believe so. Let me see. Where's the? Oh, it's just here.
Yeah, and then there's another house. It's like.
Yeah, I have a better picture here. I show you.
sorry for people that aren't here that couldn't see that, but I was just sort of pointing to make sure I understood. So it seems that, and we can get to the neighbor comments and everything else later, but it seems like it's sort of in the area farthest away from the two close neighbors that are on that street, and it's on the opposite side of the house.
You're talking right there, Mark.
Yeah, so, and then if you, yeah, but the sports, yeah, you can't see the house here, but it's basically on the other side of the house from those two. Yeah. That's the house, but the sports court is almost like up where the S in Ross is, I think. Like more, a little to the right of that.
I think the sport court is kind of over here. Yeah.
Okay, so it's across the house from the neighbors that are in the top of the street from 14. It's across, it's on the opposite side of the house.
That's what I'm
A little
understanding.
less so from number 7 down there.
That's what I'm understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I just wanted to make sure I could.
Can I just jump in real quick? Number 7, the ADU is between number 7 and the sport court. And then we did some measurements today to the property lines over there on that side. And there's a measurement of 157 feet to a property line. How can I share this? And 200 feet and 140 feet. So we did kind of some measurements down. The first 157 feet is kind of like cutting through the ADU from the corner. And then the next one is kind of going from the sport court right to the number 7 driveway and to that property line, not to the driveway. It is 200 feet. And then down to where the road makes kind of that sharpish turn is 138 feet or 137 feet. So, from the setbacks, there's a 25-foot setback. We are way within our setback requirements. I think we're within them by 116 feet to the setback from that corner down. So we're not remotely close to our setbacks.
And can you go over and show us on the screen, please, the materials for the retaining wall and what the metallic fence will look like?
Well, there's a mesh now that we use on projects that's a great representation of it. And it's not a chain link fence because it kind of looks like a chain link fence, but I don't know if anybody's been to Chrissy Field and to the new kids garden space. There's kind of an overlook up there that they use this material, and it's really transparent and it's extremely durable, and balls can hit it and it'll keep the balls from going off this edge. But the key thing is that it's transparent and it's very durable, and it's a great material that basically the entire goal of it is to keep balls from going down that hill and ending up at the bottom of Bellagio Road. And the materials for the walls, we're just going to do a concrete, just a simple concrete with either integral color concrete or a stucco finish to match the house. It'll be natural in color and just very, very simple.
And what about the lighting at the court?
All we have proposed is just wall lights, low level wall lights that are down shielded. We're not proposing any pole lights or anything like that. It's basically just going to be a daytime.
Okay, so those are just in the retaining wall.
Yeah, they're just incorporated into the wall of the retaining wall on the uphill side.
Okay, thanks.
Brad, it's Joey, what about planting in that space? Can you go back to the section, please? Planting in the space between the retaining wall and the actual fence. Is there any way where I see on your plan tons of little plants, but what are they?
Can you zoom into that? They're California natives is for the most part what they are. They're myrica and rhamnus And let's see here. Lamanda Breeze. It's really a native, very natural landscape that adheres to all the fire department and water use requirements. But the Rhamnus californica is one of the main screens, and that is a plant that gets 6 to 8 feet tall and same wide. And then the myrica is a plant that will get 12 to 15 feet, and they're labeled. Let's see, your myrica. There's Garrya elliptica too. That is another screen plant. So we worked with just, fire resistant and water, low water use plants, and plants that just will appear natural within the hillside. There's live oaks that are all going to stay, and we're maintaining all the vegetation in this area, all the trees.
So when it's planted out, the view of the sport court from the road driving up, it would be blocked. You wouldn't be able to see it.
That's definitely the goal. We don't want to see the court at all. So the entire perimeter of the court is screened. There's Polygala dalmatiana, which is a plant that gets, 5 to 6 feet tall, and that's between the rock. There's kind of a rock riprap slope to pick up some of the steeper area on the corner, which is what we did for the ADU, and the fire department wanted us to put a path around the ADU. So we used a rock riprap slope treatment just to raise the grade up and not have any big additional retaining walls. So I have a shrub along the base of the wall between Bellagio and the road that gets 5 to 6 feet tall quickly. And then there's more naturalistic plantings then below that on the slope. So yeah, the goal is that we don't see this. And then there's the canopies of the trees as you go all the way down to Bellagio. There's quite a few oaks and bay trees, and then it's 100, and I think to the road itself it is about 100 and let me see what the setback is here. It is 100. It's about 125 feet down to the road. So if you go down that slope, if you zoom back out, it's probably can see it on the first sheet, on the site plan sheet, that one. So to the road itself, it's 125 feet.
Okay, thank you.
So, Brad, I have a question. So, I like your idea of making it so, your goal being so no one sees a sport court, including the owners, when they drive up the road. Is there a reason that, because you can see the upper retaining walls as you drive up the road a little bit now, I realize there's going to be more planting, but you definitely see them, and they're somewhat stark, the big retaining walls in back of the driveway.
Yeah.
Is there some reason that you're not going to make or not proposing to make the sport court retaining walls more earth colored, where it just blends in with whatever color the dirt is? Like, is it really even helpful to have it match the house if what you're trying to do is make it disappear?
Yeah, I suppose that we can put really any color on these walls that would be acceptable. I just kind of initially thought that the walls would be similar to the other site walls, but sure, we could put a color into them that would be more earth tone.
Because it seems from driving up the hill, and things will change, I'm sure, over time, but now when you drive up, you can definitely see the contrast of the upper driveway retaining walls as you're driving up the street. So it seems that having any new retaining walls be more earth color would further your goal of helping any proposed new walls disappear.
Yeah, sure. We're fine with doing that. Yeah, the walls of the driveway, that's a total of about 18 feet of walls. So right now they feel large. I mean, I think they really feel amazingly good for the site. But yes, they're going to be planted, and there's going to be a lot of softening of those walls over time too. But these walls are 5 feet tall max, so it's a different situation. But sure, we can absolutely earth tone those walls out. Our goal is to have this court not be visible.
Right. Are there other questions?
Yeah, I just have one question for you, Brad. If you can remind me, when we're looking at the site plan south, I guess it's south of the pool area, there are 3 different distinct level areas. There's a little lawn, a bocce court, and then something else. They're shaded in the plan we're showing right now on screen.
Yeah, that's some of the CAD work, but that's a bocce court and that's a crushed rock patio below it.
And so it's a lawn, a bocce court, and then a crushed stone patio.
Crushed rock patio. That was all approved in the main house too, just to, like, we tried to cloud just the sport court because the house and all these other improvements are approved, and a lot of it is under construction. Every time I go, there's quite a lot more progress made. So I'm not exactly sure if the pool or any of that has started work, but yeah, that's crushed rock
Okay, yeah, thank you.
and bocce court material.
Joey?
I have questions of Alex and Roberta about, could you give us some guidance on the town regulations on sport courts? Like, what are we dealing with regulation-wise to make sure that we're within?
Yeah, so in terms of the use, they did specify that and the plans show that it's a basketball court. So when it goes to town council, it'll be described as such. And if that's changed hypothetically in the future, anything that wasn't approved would need to come back to the town for review.
But in terms of a sport court being proposed and built, it adheres to the same setback rules as a building. Or of any kind of hardscape improvement.
Any other patio?
Any other patio. Obviously, it's not FAR, but it's treated like a patio.
That's correct.
Okay. We just haven't had a sport court in a really long time. Except for there was another.
Yeah, it's similar, kind of just making sure. So this is allowed by code with the town. It's not in the setbacks.
Correct.
Correct.
That's all. Okay.
Okay. Any more questions before we open it up? Nope. Okay. We received a couple of letters on this that everyone on the ADR has read, but anyone who either wrote a letter or didn't is certainly more than welcome to come and speak about the project if they so desire. And if so, please come up to the microphone. Yeah, can you, yeah, but yeah, there's a pointer that he'll give you when you're up there. We just need to have it recorded, so what you say is recorded. Mark, is that microphone on still? Thanks.
Our concern is sound. I'm Zara Muir and my husband Dennis live at 10 Canyon Road. And if we could have the site plan, I'll show where. Our exposure is across the canyon. I should probably say the location, the one that shows to canyon.
I'm sorry, what was your address?
So we are the adjoining, the property that adjoins at the junction with Canyon Road, and we are here. Here. We hold that the separation for sound is not sufficient, especially if this court was later converted to a pickleball court. Of course, it's a free use once built. I wanted first to speak of the character of the neighborhood. We've lived there 25 years. I'm a landscape architect by background, and we came loving the land that's there. But we have enjoyed living with windows open to hear the rushing streams and the bird song and the soft start of cicadas in the evening. And we spend a lot of time outside gardening and swimming and eating and just relaxing in nature to enjoy the sounds. We share it with our friends if they come over. Just this spring, there've been owls in the redwoods higher on the slope. And going up at twilight, one hears them before they go out for their evening hunting. Excuse me. We know there are many neighbors, well, many, we're not a dense residential area, but most of our neighbors share similar love of the landscape that we have, and we see that regularly. We get iPhotos. Recently, one from the Montagues of a spotted owl they found in a tree there, and there've been foxes, there've been coyote that have passed by photo. So this proposal we see as impactful on these uses in ways that can't readily be negotiated by design measures. We don't like great big walls in our natural area. That's one. In some of the materials sent, you'll see a 10-foot wall can be a mitigation for the sounds of sport. These are hard surfaces. The basketball court is concrete or asphalt, and it's elevated on the slope, and the sound will radiate. Enthusiastic cries will radiate into the canyon and our property on the other side amongst the neighbors affected. But worse yet, we see...
So there's a time limit on these, so you should please speed it up because you only have like a minute left.
25 seconds.
Worse yet, if the sport court was built and given over to pickleball, and you've seen in the New York Times that Andrew Kay wrote, "The incessant pop, pop, pop of fast-growing sport has brought on a nationwide scourge of unneighborly clashes, petitions, calls to the police, and lawsuits with no solution in sight." The problems: extremely loud, measured at 70 decibels, 100 feet away, and the noise ordinance for the town is 55. So it's weighted, as I've gathered, it's weighted, but it's for 10 decibels, it's a doubling in sound. It's a sound of a freeway. The pitch is high, and it's a fast, repetitive rebound. And these impacts wipe out people's ability to enjoy their outdoors. What's more, Tiburon Peninsula Club, you see the inclusion.
That's 3
they
minutes.
Ruled that it,
I'm sorry, we need to
yeah.
cut
Can
you
I
off.
just finish the sentence and I'll...
Okay.
Yeah. They ruled that it's a negative impact on property values, and potential buyers need to be warned if there's a pickleball court there. So thank you for your time.
Sure. Are there any other people here or at home that would like to comment on this project?
Yes, we have one. Nancy, can you hear us? Nancy, I think you're muted.
Oh, yes. Hi. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Oh, good. So, hi. Thank you so much. We live across the street at 7 Bellagio. Can you hear me okay? I'm sorry, I'm in a
Yes,
car.
we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. And I know you probably got my letter. I mean, we feel that the noise travels in a unique way because of the acoustics of the canyon, and to the point where we are literally hearing whispers of the builders. I mean, we can hear every word, and so the noise just travels straight to us. And I think adding a sports court, especially, I mean, I was shocked to hear asphalt or concrete. I would think there are more modern, soft, cushy still sports court-like surfaces that are not asphalt or concrete that would amplify the sound of a bouncing ball. But it would be, incredibly disruptive to us. We feel, I mean, it seems like there's a pretty big play area for kids on that hammerhead driveway, the end of the driveway. So I don't think the property's lacking a level playing area. And it just feels like putting a sports court in this location. I mean, I don't know how easy it is for people to put in sports courts or tennis courts, but I've never even, I just would assume that it would be frowned upon just because of the type of town that Ross is and the noise that kind of creates, and in particular in this situation projects with the back, like a wall at the back and then asphalt and concrete. I mean, it's already, to be honest, it's already pretty devastating to us to have that pool right there, right across from us. And because it's up high, the shields just aren't there because it's so high. Even an 8-foot shrub or whatever was being spoken about earlier, I don't think that will make, even be that impactful. We have 17 windows that look straight at the property. I can see every detail of everything that's going on. And because the giant trees have been taken out that provided a natural visible screen.
Your
I mean,
time's almost up, so make sure you say everything you want.
okay. Hold on. I mean, I don't know. The height of the walls, I think it was 6 feet, but that was on the inside of the sports court. I think it gets a lot higher when you're talking about going down. And it also looks like they've already started leveling it, to be honest. They did a lot of earth moving already. So those are just our very, very big concerns. We're pretty devastated by the noise that's coming from this project. So to have a sports court added is sort of adding insult to injury. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, are there any more comments here or at home?
No.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the ADR for comments. Just regarding sport courts, because I mean, I think the two neighbors were basically saying the same thing. The town does not have any regulations when it comes to noise from people playing in sports courts on private properties, whether it's a tennis court or kids playing basketball in a driveway. I mean, I know my kids, when they were younger, used to play a lot of basketball in the driveway. And it's noisy. I completely agree, but there's no regulations. And as the ADR, even if we wanted to, we can't delay or deny a project because people are hoping that the rules will change in the near future. And they might, but we can't not approve something because somebody hopes rules might change in the future. Otherwise, we might never approve any projects because you don't know what rules might change in the future regarding anything. So I just wanted to sort of address that. And there were questions about sports court rules, and there really aren't any in the town other than you're not allowed to have overhead lights on poles looking down at things. So just that's my understanding of the rules. I think that's what I understand from the town staff as well, correct? Okay, yeah, so my understanding is correct. So based on all that, I would support the project because I don't know, as long as they're not over, going over FAR or building in the setbacks, if someone wants to have a driveway and they're mitigating their impervious surfaces, we allow it. And same with sports courts or patios. And we really can't regulate usage that's not in the setback, I believe. So I would recommend approval for it. I understand their concerns about the noise, but I also understand that if they were playing basketball in the driveway, it would probably be just as noisy. Who would like to go next?
I will. I support it as drawn because I think they are well within their rights as homeowners. It's way out of the setbacks. It's far away from these other houses, and with all due respect, yes, it's not the quiet that you've grown accustomed to, but it is their property right to be able to do this on their property, and they are mitigating many of the concerns with planting, the pervious surface situation, and there's tons of precedents in Ross with tennis courts. A lot of people in that area have tennis courts, and it's a huge lot. it supports this, and if that's what they want to do with it, it's their prerogative.
Laura, Mark?
Yeah, while I can empathize with the neighbors' concerns over the noise impact on their properties, we are kind of just following the town regulations. So from a design perspective, I think it looks nice. I don't really have much to add, as long as the lighting is low, which she kind of talked about. So I feel for the neighbors, and I guess one thing you had kind of mentioned is if they ever intended to change the use to pickleball, that would have to be approved. So, that conversation would be at a later date. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I guess a quick question. It's being applied as a basketball court specifically, but we keep referring to it as a sports court. Could you maybe just give us a little clarity on which one it's actually
Well, I don't think
approved for use?
I don't think it really matters. They could use it any way they want.
Yeah, they
Even if it was a
could,
pickleball
right?
court, my comments would be exactly the same because there's no,
Well, I was just curious if it actually, is that something someone would come and change of use from a basketball court to, street hockey or something like that? Is that something someone would come to the town for?
So part of the conditions of approval is that they would construct the project as described in the plans. And if you look at the plans, it's specific to a basketball court. So that's what they would have to construct. Again, going to what Chair Kruschnitt said, which is if someone played tennis on their basketball court, it's hard to, sort of regulate that. Or if they played, I don't know what else, soccer on their.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming, that it was sort of, and I was taking it the same way you were, sort of whatever that use is somewhat generic. Because sports court, just sort of generic. So number one, I want to show some empathy for the sound issues that I think both neighbors are expressing. And I think this lot is a little unique because it is elevated up and it's a canyon. So sound is going to travel, right? I think that is a little bit different than some of the things we see here in the flats. I'm not sure it changes my opinion. Ultimately, what I was trying to figure out is if we saw this in the original proposal, would we have had an issue with that as being proposed? I would probably have, the reason I had asked Brad to describe what was going on in that lower left of the lot, there is a lot of effort to create level yard on this particular hillside lot. So we've got bocce ball, we've got a grass area, we have that large hammerhead for the fire department turnaround. I think one of my earlier, if that had been proposed at the same time, I probably would have made a comment about the amount of overall disturbance of the hillside and to probably try to minimize that as much as possible. So I might have recommended saying, well, let's get rid of that bocce court and that level grass area and that gravel patio if you want to build another, what is a pretty large level area off to the east. So I might have made a horse trade for that because it is a lot of disturbance. One of our design review guidelines is to minimize the amount of disturbance in natural topography. This kind of flies in the face of that. However, with that being said, to my colleague's standpoint, it is within their rights to have something like this. So I don't see a huge problem. I would ask that Brad maybe take a look at ways that rear retaining wall that is actually uphill. Is there any way to mitigate sound on that 5? Because that's the largest of the retaining walls. That's going to ultimately end up projecting the sound down the canyon. If there's anything you could do on the face of that retaining wall that's on the upward side, because it's long too, I think it's a good 60 feet long, to mitigate the sound of reflected noise off of that retaining wall to the canyon below. I would ask you to take a look at that. I'm not sure what material that could be, but there might be something you could do or come up with to mitigate the impact of the acoustics on the neighbors. So that's what my recommendation would be. Yep, I think I could support the project, but I would ask some attempt to mitigate the sound on that upward retaining wall. Because at this point, you can do different geometries for the concrete. You could put some sort of panel, an exterior panel that absorbs sound so that it doesn't reflect directly down to the canyon below. So that'd be my recommendation. And second, I would support Mark's thought about as much as you can subdue that wall into the earth tone, whether it's integral color, concrete, something like that, I would recommend doing that as well, because it's going to take a while for these plantings to grow and, minimize it as much as possible.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, thank you. We appreciate your time. And now we will move on. We have no conceptual advisory design review items. We do have some other discussion agenda items just based on our reappointments, et cetera. Roberta, do you want to go through those?
So just item 6A is an update on the ADR group appointments. The town council did ask that I convey to the ADR group members some of their thoughts and gratitude. So to start with, Councilmember Robbins stated that the town is extremely fortunate that they have 5 wonderful design professionals willing to continue to serve. She thinks the ADR group has been invaluable to the town over the past 15 years, and the town owes you a debt of gratitude for the wonderful job that you do for the town. Councilmember Cool also echoed Councilmember Robbins's comments and stated that he attends many of the ADR meetings because he has a lot of difficulty understanding some of the nuances. And it's very apparent that you all work very hard and exercise good judgment. So the town is fortunate to have the 5 ADR members on the group. Councilmember McMillan also added that the ADR shoulders the burden that the council otherwise would bear, and that you make the council's job much easier because you're dealing with some of the tough neighbor and design issues. So again, she says the town is fortunate to have the ADR group in place and this system, and is excited that you're all willing to continue to serve as members, and so she thanked you all. Mayor Breckus echoed the comments. She said in Belvedere that there's a lot of controversy, and some of her council members there have asked her how it is so smooth for the town council here in Ross. And she thinks it's because of the ADR that is the case. Her biggest worry, she said, is going forward, maybe not being able to fill the positions as competently as it is now. And so she did say that we're really lucky to have in-town residents willing to volunteer at such a high level. And then lastly, Mayor Pro Tem Kircher agreed and echoed the comments. He did say the design review makes the council's job much easier, and that there's very few issues because you've helped to narrow down and focus in on those concerns, and they're all very grateful for that. And they voted unanimously to reappoint all 5 members at their council meeting.
Thank you.
And then, so for item number 6B, at the last council meeting last Thursday, the item of the demolition permit and the design review requirement that comes before ADR and town council when an applicant wants to replace more than 25% of their exterior wall covering, so siding, stucco. In that meeting, they sort of directed staff to get your comments on that, but what they were thinking is that if the replacement or the alteration was in kind, so siding to siding, stucco to stucco, or if it was fire preventative. So for instance, we have a homeowner who has T111 wood siding, and her homeowner's insurance policy is asking her to replace it with stucco or something that's fire preventative because she's in a higher fire zone. That would just need a building permit and would not need, ADR approval and then town council approval. So if you all would want to share your comments on that and maybe your recommendations, I can bring that forward to the town council.
It's funny, I'm actually kind of torn because my next door neighbors they want to do the same thing and it's going to look great. They want to replace kind of white siding with shingles and a stone base. And we're a little dismayed that they have to go to design review in order to do that. But that's something that I really like and I approve of. Whereas if they were going to stucco it or, if there was no design control, it might not be so attractive. I know people should be able to do what they want with their houses. Kind of.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud. First of all, for sure, we should support anybody changing to a more fire resistant or fireproof material. I mean, one, just for general safety, but also for the safety of their neighbors and the whole town, so that less stuff is flammable. What if everyone changed to green stucco tomorrow? Like, that would look pretty bad.
The cheapest thing to do is stucco.
I'm wondering if there's a way to word it where, you know, fireproofing is always approved. Maybe if it's of a similar color palette or something, maybe you don't even need to bother saying that because most people are going to get green stucco. I don't know. Maybe you just always approve it. What do you think?
Well, you're one of the pieces there described in kind. So if it was wood shingles to wood shingles, it bypasses us. If it's wood shingles to stucco, what I understood there was it would come before design review. Is that what you were, is that what the proposal was?
I think it was in kind or
fire resistant. So that means stucco.
Either or, it could be.
Or I guess
or metal.
Yeah.
What about, oh, pardon.
No,
But we never want to prevent anybody from being more
no,
fire
so
resistant.
maybe the way to think about it is not preventing, but ensuring that the choices they're making, not necessarily stucco, but green stucco, or the details around that, that's where we might be able to weigh in and have some, to ensure that the quality is what we would expect.
Maybe
Perhaps.
Fast tracking it where it's
That's what I was
just like
thinking,
an
wonder-
email between all of
Yeah.
us. Like, hey, you guys, is this, like, what do you think of this? Rather than them having to pay the big fees to go before design review, wait, you know, get in line, submit, do all those drawings. It's expensive.
I would think no fees
No fees, and like
and
I'd
some
review
kind of
that on
fast
email.
track.
Yeah.
Like maybe that could come either as Joey suggested, which is a great suggestion, like via email where one or more ADR members look at it, or another possibility would be it could just be a no fee item. The owners don't even have to come. It's like presented to us, you know, item number 1A each time these 3 homes want to change.
Yeah.
And so we could just quickly look at it, rubber stamp it and say, yep, looks great, looks great, looks great.
Or like no application package where that's so time consuming
Onerous,
and
yeah.
it takes them so long to get on the agenda, like quick.
Right.
So
I
it's
mean,
sort
you
of
could take a photo of the existing house and then have a little like a material.
One-page palette or something.
Yeah.
Similar to the way we do conceptual design, right? There's a second track for that. This would be like a third track, but it would be the most expedited track.
Yeah, and maybe put it at the very beginning.
Very beginning of
any
the
meeting. And
it's
if
sort of like the
someone's doing
consent
that,
agenda.
they've got to be spending, you know, 10,000.
Yeah, thousands of dollars, for
Tens of
sure.
thousands of dollars, I would think, to replace the whole siding of your house, right?
To do that, I mean, then the only.
So, spending an extra 30 or 10 minutes at the beginning of a meeting for them isn't a big thing relative to this big project they're doing.
Yeah.
And we could do it quickly and it doesn't cost them any extra money. Maybe is that possible? Something along those lines?
Get an architect, but then what if we say, no, that's really not attractive? Come back next month.
But I think probably most people who are spending the 10 to 50,000 to redo the exterior of their home might actually want to hear that comment. Like if you tell them, this actually, instead of this kind of stucco, you should look at something more like this, and you could probably even give them an address because you know the houses so well.
Right.
Like someone else did this, it looks better. And so I think they'd actually be happy for that suggestion, because otherwise they get their house redone and maybe realize, oh, wow, it's fireproof, but this is not what I was hoping for.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there between expedited and still having some governance over what actually happens, some sort of review process.
So maybe we
does
should
that
just see it in
make
the
sense?
meeting, but like, a very expedited and free way that we look at it. Because it will only take us 5 minutes to do that for
Put
each
them
house.
on as they come in, like, don't make them line up. Would that work for your schedule?
I think it's challenging for the homeowner. I'm just thinking of one specifically, and in this case, they currently have T111 siding, which is not great, and it's wood, and so they want to replace their siding, their T111 siding with stucco. So according to this applicant, their insurance policy is going to cancel them this month if they don't. I mean, I don't know, right?
Doesn't it take like weeks, if not months, to organize this and then get it put in? So like-
Yes.
So they're gonna get canceled anyway before they get it done, right? I mean, like, it seems like it takes a time. This isn't something you get done in a week, like changing the exterior of your house, right?
That's possible that it would get canceled. I think to Joey's comment, we could have, so it can't be 3 or more members because of Brown Act, but we could have 2 ADR members where we would email you what the applicant is proposing, and if both members think that it's consistent with the design review criteria, then we can go ahead and just let them apply for the building permit. You know, so hypothetically, if someone had wood siding and they just wanted a hardy fiber cement siding because that's more fire preventative, right? I think that seems reasonable instead of having them wait a month to go to ADR and then another month to go to town council to replace their siding.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay, so that's an option there that I can,
Want to volunteer to be on the siding? I mean, I'm sure you're only gonna get like, a few a year.
I'm fine with that.
Because because of the Brown Act, you can only email to, maybe, is that okay with you? If you start off with.
Sure.
Okay, Joey and Mark, for like, just emailing them.
Means you have to be the chair next year.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's a great
Yeah,
suggestion.
I'm happy.
Yeah,
to
that works.
opine on
okay,
siding.
and then just to clarify, would this be for anything that's replacing or just if it's not in kind or fire preventative?
Well, why don't you just do it with anything? Because it's so quick, it's just an email, right? So if someone's gonna replace it, even for fire prevention, like it doesn't take much time.
So
to
maybe
send
we
the
can,
email.
because it would require amending the section for the design review and the demolition permit for planning. So maybe we can amend that and then add a policy that there would be a subcommittee who would review, exterior coverings replacement.
And this is only for exterior finishes.
That's correct.
Okay.
What about like new windows, like my
That would be
neighbors are
totally-
doing?
That was already just a building permit. That's just goes through.
Okay.
This is only for more than 25% of a wall covering
Yeah.
alteration.
We can't control quality of new, if someone's like, I'm replacing all my windows with vinyl windows, there's absolutely nothing we can do. Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, we don't see that.
Okay, well, thank you, Roberta. That's an excellent suggestion of a good way to proceed.
Okay, and the last item, 6C, is the selection of the ADR chair. My understanding is that we're supposed to do this in the beginning of each year. And
5 years.
the current chair has agreed to volunteer unless there's other.
You guys are happy with me running the meeting?
We support
You're
that.
doing great.
We all support that selection, and I'll even speak for Stephen.
All right, there we go.
I guess, does someone want to like make a nomination, or how does you guys do this?
I hereby nominate Mark Kruchnev for chair of the ADR, effectively, immediately, and everlasting.
He's really good at it. He holds people. to
The
their
3
time
minutes. Yeah.
One thing I will say, you could, if you wanted to get on some yearly cadence, you could say this one runs until the end of the fiscal, so we could just do this again in
We should do it I think we're supposed to do it every January, or whatever
Yeah.
the first
Yes.
meeting.
That's
of the
what I was
year
sort of
is.
saying. This
Yeah.
could be an interim, you're going to get nominated again in January.
Yeah.
Trust me, but just for the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, because we forgot for the last.
And I apologize, Mark, not to speak for you, but you're fine with it, right?
Yes,
You're-
I
Okay,
no,
okay.
I'm more than happy. It's my biggest contribution is running the meetings. It's
Thank
not the architectural expertise relative to my peers, that's for sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. That's
Right. Well,
We
thank
did
all
have
of
a
you.
vice chair of Joey Buckingham.
Oh,
that
yes.
is still official. Do we want to renominate
Yes, I
Joey?
will do
I would
that.
like to renominate Joey Buckingham for vice ADR chair. Do I hear a second?
Sounds
to
good.
do it. I have to text Mark and be like, remind me.
I second that.
Okay, remind me of the order of
Process.
Okay. I think we're ready to
Okay,
roll.
Joe, I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Third. Thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.